You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
What I try to tell people is that you got to be a really good people person, especially interacting with people and, showing that you're not stressed, even though you may be, you'll get the benefit of the doubt on things. And that's true, I think, with any kind of on-location shoot.
Hey everyone, thanks again for hitting that play button. It's episode 90 of the Dave Bullis podcast. Before I get to the interview, I just want to say I hope everyone had a happy holiday. And again, I wish everyone a fantastic 2016. And if you could, please rate the show on iTunes. That helps us out immensely. And I just want to say my next guest on this show, and I actually met by accident. I actually reached out to him originally because I thought he was the Jared Hess from Napoleon Dynamite, and he's actually another Jared Hess who's a cinematographer. So we still, we talked, and, he agreed to come on. So, Jared is on location in this interview, so a few segments are going to be a little noisy, so just bear that in mind, but it's still very, very audible. And without further ado, episode 90 with cinematographer Jared Hess.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
Hey everyone, thanks again for joining me for another episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast. Joining me today is Jared Hess. Jared is a cinematographer based out of Orlando, Florida, and Jared has worked in the indie film television market for over 10 years and has produced content for such clients as Bellator, WWE, and ESPN. Jared, how's everything going, buddy?
Good, man. Out here in sunny Orlando, so can't complain. It's about 80 degrees, so not the rest of the United States is happy with Florida right now. So,
it's here in Philadelphia. It's been such a warm winter. It's been unbelievable.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. I was just out west and doing some shooting also, so the weather's been great. Seems like for the most part, so nobody's getting hit too hard by snow in winter. So, Jared, just to begin, the question I always ask everybody is, how did you get started? And what exactly is your background? Well, my dad was actually a screenwriter, before I was born, and he had a business partner, Wayne Beach, and my dad went into other things. Wayne Beach kept going at it, and he sold a couple films to Wesley Snipes, The Art of War, Murder at 1600, and then he directed later on Slow Burn. So I kind of always looked up to him, and I was always into telling stories, and thought I was going to be an actor for a while. And when I went to college, I decided to kind of pursue the kind of film element, doing digital media, video production, and then the birth of the D90 came out, so I wasn't chasing down film stock and renting expensive equipment, and started making my own content, kind of doing guerrilla-style filmmaking, producing some short films, and then I started getting picked up, primarily by ESPN, and then Spike Television, shooting a lot of their feature content and what have you.
So how did they discover you at first? Did you send them a reel, or did they maybe, happen upon your content online?
Well, I worked with a couple individuals who I'd known with, and they kept pushing me and kind of exposing some of the things that I've been shooting. And, I did a couple of short films and was always looking to kind of self-promote. And, there came up with a couple opportunities where they needed some people to be kind of a film style look for some of the feature content. And so kind of created kind of that niche, or fell into that kind of niche of kind of doing the film look for, features for different clients, whether it's usually short form. I've done a couple of long form, hour-long projects as well, outside of features. When I mean features, I mean like, short form features for, different, whether it's a fight or, a big event, those kind of things, the story, the backstory, and the storylines that are primarily used within the actual live event. So
now, you got to work with WWE. So what did you do for them? What did you shoot for them?
Done a couple of, they've asked me to do a couple of different things where I shoot ENG or do like some of their backstage kind of things. I really wasn't able to commit to them because of Bellator, and then now I do Premier Boxing Championships, which is 2 shows on Spike Television. So, I've been on there. I do a lot of elements for them, almost 30 weeks with Spike, and then so I do a lot of their stuff. Right now I'm shooting a project with Hoist Gracie, Ken Shamrock, and Kimbo Slice. And they're doing an upcoming kind of fight. So they're doing an hour-long project with those 3 guys primarily.
And that's really cool.
Yeah, it's actually I'm not really a violent person at all. It's funny that I actually end up doing a lot of fighting kind of stuff. So I've kind of become just the go-to guy when it comes to setting up shoots in some undesirable locations. Some of these gyms aren't always the most flattering of places to be setting up a on-location shoot. But since I've shot in so many of them and become known a lot to the fighters, some of the more prominent ones, I guess you could say I've kind of created a name in that environment.
So, are some of the more popular gyms, are they in some of like the rougher neighborhoods? And, is that maybe a challenge of itself?
Yes. Recently, it's funny you mentioned that. Recently, I have shot in a pretty, Miami, Florida has got several locations where you don't want to be caught after dark. But recently I did a shoot there, and when I was addressing my crew before we got started, I mentioned the first thing that we want to make sure we do not do is get shot. And that safety was a number one issue because we were clearly could be considered trespassing into enemy territory. It wasn't a safe neighborhood by any means. So, yeah. Recently I also shot at, Mayweather's gym, which, may arguably be one of the greater fighters of our lifetime. And, you go into locations like that and people have shot so many times. DPs have left in the photo bulb. Sometimes you go into places and there's barely any electricity. You've got, you've got a garage door that opens. So you're often surprised, pleasantly or not, on what you're going to walk into,
So, on those locations, I guess, the challenge also comes because you can't do a real tech scout, right? So you basically, I'm sure the location scout, if even there is one, is basically probably just them just showing, taking a photo with their cell phone. Probably somebody from an entourage or an assistant probably taking a photo, right? And then you probably that's probably all you get, if even that. Correct? Am I correct in that, Jared?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Scouting locations is fantastic, and it's a wonderful thing to have if you can get it. But yeah, you're not. It's usually the lowest common denominator that's being sent out there, so it's kind of one of those things that's an afterthought. So a lot of the times I'll do the research myself and, kind of walking into situations where I'll have to just be ready, and kind of rigging up things and having things set up easy enough where I can, because a lot of times I don't have a director and I'm producing out there and directing myself. So knowing every element and how to to compensate and to use certain things to my advantages. If you've got, if we're shooting 240 frames, I've got a guy who's fighting 20 pounds in a day and a half. He's not going to want to sit there and work out for me for 2 hours. So, and be patient while I set up lights. So I've really got to kind of be ahead of the game and be ready to go and be patient with these guys. The number one thing I'll say that I think I have going for me is, what I try to tell people is that, you got to be a really good people person, especially interacting with people and, showing that you're not stressed, even though you may be, you'll get the benefit of the doubt on things. And that's true, I think, with any kind of on-location shoot.
Now, you mentioned not having a director on some of these shoots. So when you go into, to some of these shoots, then is basically you just have that shot list that you want to get, and I'm guessing you're basically that basically is becoming you're the director then with just a shot list. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, a lot of the time we're working with certain story elements. So if we have certain backstory that's provided by different producers or different pre-interviews. So I'll be provided a lot of that information. So, I'll get certain shots and set up certain things that will kind of help out and kind of captivate the story that we're trying to tell. So, because if we're shooting, for instance, somebody who's try to escape Cuba or something like that. We don't have any footage of him trying to, get on a boat and come over from Cuba and come to the United States. But we also want to use original footage as opposed to trying to dive into stock footage. So, trying to recreate kind of emotional elements that kind of tie in with the story is always, not only an obstacle, but it's kind of a fun part because it's a challenge. You create something that's still visually enticing and, but also ties into the story.
Yeah, very true. I've done some, interview segments, nothing of that caliber, what you're doing. And, usually you have that, the same question, the same questions that you have to ask the subject. And, like for instance, I put together like an educational reel, educational package, for a couple universities. And, you have to ask the same questions. And one of the things that I found was that basically, they want you to, it starts off, small, like you're just being the videographer. And then suddenly, there's so many people having different say, a different say in things that you've got to, sort of please, like, 5, 6, 7, or 8 different people. Do you find that is the instance in some of these cases?
100%. You're always trying to please other people. And not only that, some of the things that I shoot get used on a million different things. I might be, say, hey, this is supposed to be used in this location, but at any given point, it could be used during the live show, could be thrown in with promotional stuff. So and then you always get the, hey, why didn't you do this for us? Well, I had no idea it was going to be used in that. That's not why I shot it that way. So yeah, you're always trying to kind of be ahead of the game, please people, communication, is always key. So yeah, you're always trying to kind of communicate with what's going on. And then not to mention, you always want it to make it look good and how you want to make it look, not just some generic, flat shot of just coverage. You want it to make it look cool, make it look like it's your own and kind of edgy, and look like you really put some production value into it. And you've got to do that within a budget. And so, yeah, the other thing is it's always great to have a bunch of hands on set, but it also can get too many hands, and you got too many people putting their 2 cents in. I feel comfortable enough where I can walk into a gym shoot with a fighter, especially somebody that I know or a talent that I know, and it could be myself and, a PA and a shooter, or if I have to shoot and cinema to do it, I'm completely confident that I can get what I need to get done and communicate with the fighter. Because there's also, just like in anything else, there's kind of a unspoken rule book of what you're supposed to do within a gym or within a certain environment. And you want to kind of make it look like you've been there before. So once they get the feeling that they kind of know you, or you kind of have that cred, I think that benefit of the doubt. You'll get the extra 20 minutes to get some extra stuff. You may, that fighter that you may be able to get some extra stuff where maybe the initial interview wasn't able to get because he was nervous that, you know, he didn't want to relay that to anybody. But because you created that relationship, now you've gained some information that, hey, this would be a great storyline to kind of add into the piece. So, and at the end of the day, you have a job to do. It's as a producer, as a DP. So you really got to kind of, if the guy is just kind of sitting there, he's cutting 20 pounds, for instance, and he's just kind of a lump. You gotta say, hey, let's just get this done. Let's try to sell this fight, and give me all you can give me for 15 minutes, and we'll get you back to what you need to do to get yourself ready for this fight. Well, let's get people to watch. So it's a lot of give and take, and at the end of the day, I'm just trying to make them look good. That's one thing I try to really do. So if the talent, I want them to look good. But then they'll be the ones that say, hey, I want to work with this guy. He understands me, and he makes me look good. So.
Jared, you mentioned being a people person and how, important that is. I think that is a great point to make because, I've been on set sometimes where, even the director of cinematography or even the director has just been a complete jerk to everybody. And, they're yelling, everything is yelling at everybody. So, by the end of the day, they're just basically tuning that guy out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, things are going to go wrong too. So it's, I've had fighters which are notorious for, I'm just saying fighters, that's what I'm working on right now, but it doesn't matter. I mean, regardless who you're working with, things are going to go wrong at some given point. Technically, flights get missed, all that kind of stuff. But if you've developed a rapport, maybe not that guy, but maybe his buddy or something like that, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. If you tiptoe around him and make him feel awkward, I think it's kind of create an environment that's not conducive not only to help you out, but I think it just creates something like a mistrust situation where you just want to create like a really kind of relaxed, you want them to be themselves, hey, help me out. I promise I'll make you look good. You want to give them the confidence that you're not there to make him look bad. Ultimately, it's as black and white as that sounds. That's really, especially if you're working with somebody who's, if you're working with an Albert Pujols, or you're working with a Hoist Gracie, you're working with somebody who's he's got a camera in their face all the time. You want them to kind of develop a trust with you. So, otherwise they're just going to be like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to give you the same answer I always give everybody else. You want the new answer. You want the new look. You want the thing that somebody else isn't going to get. And it comes with, I think confidence, knowing what you're doing, being ready, but also kind of developing that personal relationship.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I always find if you're going to interview somebody, basically, not if you can talk to them even through email beforehand, that's a huge bonus. But if you have to meet them the day of, which I've been in that situation too, I find that just talking with them for 5 to 10 minutes, shaking the hand is important. Sort of getting that like a physical contact. You know what I mean? They know you're not going to be basically a jerk. And one thing that I've learned is whenever I'm going to interview a subject, whenever I see they're nervous, I usually just roll the camera and I begin talking to them, and I said, okay, we'll begin, whenever you're ready. So basically, I'm just rolling because we're all shooting on digital now, so there's no film to be wasting. So I usually roll and just say, whenever you feel comfortable, you can introduce yourself and start talking. Basically, sort of, it makes them feel that they're in control of the situation. Which some degree they are, but they aren't, if you know what I mean.
100%, man. Yeah. You want to, if you want to make them feel like you're ready, but you're, not necessarily waiting on them, but yeah, you want to feel like I think it's creating an environment where they feel relaxed. If, there's a sense of anxiety, whether they want to admit it or not. So if you can kind of nip that in the butt right away, like, hey, listen, I'm going to get out of your way. and we're going to make you look good. Everything's taken care of. Everything's organized, whatever. Let's chill, maybe you crack a joke, something to kind of humanize yourself because they don't want you to think you're a robot and kind of, It's at the end of the day, I feel like I've always been able to get because you're always going to get oh, we need to get that, or, oh, by the way. So if you develop a personal relationship, you can text or call these guys and just say, hey, man, I hate to bother you again, but, this, we really need to grab this one extra thing. I can't get 5 more extra minutes of your time. And I rarely have that, that time where the talent is, unless they're really doing something where they said no, usually they're like, yeah, man, no problem. Give me an hour. Let's do it right before dinner or something like that. So, and, like I said, that's kind of helped me in that avenue, where I'm like, okay, yeah, no problem, man. Thank you for giving me your extra time. I'll work around you. I'm in your environment. You're not in my environment, that kind of thing. So,
developing that rapport is very important. I agree 100%. That is something that I found over the years as well. I know you also, as you mentioned before, you work on films as well. So, sort of to transition to that, when you're on a film set, obviously, there is going to be a director, hopefully, right, Jared? But,
okay.
But if, as you're working on a film set, I think, building that teamwork and building that trust is sort of key because, I've been on film sets where, there is no teamwork. Sort of everybody is off on their own little island, so to speak.
Sure.
And you really don't feel like everyone's kind of working together. You feel like everyone's working and doing their job, but it's not to do the same goal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that whenever I have an opportunity to put together guys, or I walk into a situation where, whether I'm replacing somebody else or, everybody's crewed already and you're kind of brought in to kind of manage the team. You feel kind of like you're walking into enemy territory or something like that. You tell them once again, I always try to nip that in the butt, and if you can get along with everybody and kind of show them that you don't have an agenda, I think that, and your agenda is just to do a good job, I think that whether it takes more time than other times than not, it seems to kind of work. That's kind of worked for me, is that, hey guys, I just, not the best situation. I understand. I don't know you guys. I'm sure you guys are all talented. Let's do a good job here. If there's any confusion, I promise you, or something goes wrong, I'll stick up for you. We're not here to throw anybody under the bus. Let's just do a good job and get up and make this look good, and kind of go over what you can in the allotted time, because it's never enough time, that. So.
Yeah, it's always time and money, right, Jared?
Oh, you're kidding me? Yeah, I'm learning more and more as I do things to keep asking for even more time than I'm giving, because there's always the oh, by the way, and there's always the I've changed my mind, So, and as much as you want to get aggravated and get angry, it's just that it doesn't really help. You just need to get on and hope the guys that are around you can kind of have the same mindset and are ready for it as well.
Yeah, I find that, the shooting schedules where, you're working like 16, 18, 20-hour days, and you're trying to smush all of this shooting schedule into a very short window. I found that, over the years, that not only I think is that, well, I just feel that that's not the right way anymore, and I think more filmmakers, more indie filmmakers, are coming to their senses that, we don't have to emulate the big guys and shoot, an entire script in, this little tiny window. If we can, let's get a little more breathing room in here. And, that way we're not, burning ourselves out within the first week. I mean, is that something you're finding out as well?
Yeah. It's, stretching just depends, I think, where the lines are drawn as far as what you are and aren't doing, especially in regards to budgeting and that kind of thing. You know, you've got if everything's laid out and everything's very transparent, and you kind of see from beginning to end all the, you know, A, B, C, D, you know, everything's laid out, pre-production's done, you should be pretty right on pace, and you're not really kind of burning yourself out. But as you know, that never happens. So you know, but that's cool. And you know, for the most part, that's kind of what I was brought along in that atmosphere. So, and it's not comfortable for me. It's not been the most ideal situation, but I excel in it. And, you know, that's, at the end of the day, you know, I still get the job done. I get it the way I want it to look. And, I think that's what counts. And, you know, so yeah, you're telling a good story, right? That's what you're there to do. So.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, that's actually, you know, one of my next questions for you was, you know, what advice would you give to directors who work with cinematographers? You know, maybe there's something they do that, you know, is grating on cinematographers, you know, some directors, or, you know, maybe they're sometimes they're not clear enough. So, you know, you know, what advice would you give to directors when they're working with cinematographers?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, you know, if you bring in a cinematographer and you do a good job, you know, you look at their work, you said, wow, this guy's good, and you brought him in to do something. I think you just trust him with it, you know. Especially, I try not to carry an ego with me, so I can't, you know, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing sometimes, but, you know, go in, just try to do a good job, and you know, once again, develop a rapport with your director and see how he likes to, you know, and get on the same page with him, and really do as much pre-production as humanly possible. So when you walk into something, that you're ready to go. You know exactly how you want it to look that matches up with the end product. And so that when they're going through daily, they're looking for, hey, I think it shortens your days. You know, I think at the end of the day too, it keeps them on budget, because you're not sitting there tweaking with things consistently or doing pickups and that kind of thing. And, yeah, I mean, number one thing is just trusting, you know, really, if you bring in somebody to do a job and you see, or you know, you've worked with them in the past, it's just trusting their eye and that they're going to be there and do what you, want them to do. Actually, I've got a director here calling me now. The other line.
Did you take it?
I can call him back here in a moment. Are we almost about wrapping up here?
Yeah, probably like 3 more minutes.
Okay.
Is that
sure.
okay?
Yeah, 100%.
So, you know, is there any advice then you have for first-time cinematographers?
I mean, yeah, I would say, you know, develop relationships with people in the business. You know, networking is always great. You know, I think doing things the right way the first time and getting off on that foot in regards to, you know, showing what you can do, but not stepping on people's toes, kind of gives you, because you're going to develop a reputation one way or another. So it might as well be a good reputation, you know, and, you know, making things look, you know, scratch that itch, man. You know, that's the one thing I started doing, and I was like, man, this looks so great. How do I do this? And how can I do this with what I have? You know, how can I attain this look with what I have to use? And, you know, trying to recreate certain looks and certain ways of shooting, and always trying to, you know, change things up so it's not always the repeat. You know, it's not everything you do is the same, you know, because I think everybody who's picking up a camera and is trying to be a DP is really just, you know, it's really just, it's an outlet for creativity, you know. So that outlet of creativity, you're trying to always come up with new looks. You may not be the first person to do that, but it's always I think it's self-satisfying when you are able to accomplish something that, you know, you pull off a look that you're like, man, I want it to look this way. I've got it. My mind's eye has got it. And when it's in the can and everything looks just the way you want it to be, and the delivery was right there, you get that self joy. And if you're able to do it the right way without stepping on his and her toes and, pissing off this guy and that guy, I think that's really cool. A really cool moment that I have. It's like, hey, the director was happy, the producer is happy, the talent loves working with me, the PA was happy just to be there, that kind of thing. When everybody's just like, man, I love being there, and you kind of helped be a part of it, and then you also get that end project that looks fantastic. It's really gratifying.
Yeah, and I concur. It really is great when everyone sort of comes together. I know you have to go, so just to sort of close this out, I recently was on I was working with M. Night Shyamalan's producer. Okay. And we got to go to this post-production house, and it was a beautiful theater, and the guy who works there was saying, that the track lighting that they use on the floor there, those floor lights, he said as soon as they started screening footage of another movie, the director of cinematography was like, wait a minute. He goes, this color is off down in the bottom left here. What the hell's going on? And then he turned off the lights, so now it's like pitch black except for the screen. Mm-hmm. And the director of photography was like, okay, now this looks good. I remember this looking like this now. And, and everyone sort of, obviously, some people probably wouldn't even notice that, but obviously, he did because, he has that eye.
Details are always something that you're especially, you're looking now, it's even more difficult, I think, because you have, everybody is shooting constantly because it's cheap, and you don't have, my name's not Quentin Tarantino, so I don't have the ability to shoot on film. So you're just constantly shooting because it's cheap. You're just taking another director, maybe watching on this monitor, so if they're not calibrated correctly, who knows what they're seeing? Who knows what maybe they're looking at it as the raw without a LUT dropped in, and you're just, you're looking at nonsense essentially. So yeah, it's an interesting thing where you never know who's going to be looking at it and where they're going to be looking at it, and what lighting's set up. Are they sitting in a dark room? Are they sitting in a light room? Are they looking at a Vimeo monitor? Are they looking at a Sony 4K monitor? Are they looking at an OLED? So that's another thing I would say, especially with the OLED thing. That's DP's best friend is an OLED monitor. If you can have one on set at all times, I would suggest doing that, because then you know exactly what you're seeing, and at the end of the day.
Yeah, that post-production house recommended that as well, because they actually had their workflow recommendation, and that was on there, the monitor.
Yeah, I mean...
That monitor, I mean.
Yeah, an OLED monitor it's especially for run and gun stuff. You're walking into fluorescence, you're walking into, just who knows, and you're trying to set up, you want to make sure that you've got one of those on site, because there's a couple of them out there. The Odyssey now has one where you can drop in a LUT and match it up, so it's pretty close to what your editor is going to be looking at, or your colorist is going to be kind of looking at. So, correct your blacks and those kind of things, which is just incredible to have on site. So you're not guessing and hoping that the guy, the colorist decides to go this way or that way. It's just, I can't tell you how much that saved me. It saved probably my career, is just having one of those on site at all times. Is being able to see a close to end product on especially low budget type stuff. So
yeah, that's again, like one of the things they were saying was, again, like these cinematographers, they always tell them how important that that particular monitor is. So anyone listening to this, I'll make sure to link to it in the show notes, the monitor we're talking about. Jared, I know you have to go. So, in closing, where can people find you out online?
You can check out jaredhessvideo.com. I also I'm doing the new show for Bellator for the upcoming fight on February 19th with Gracie and Shamrock. So you can check out my work there. The show will be released the week prior. I'm actually doing some stuff this week for ESPN. So I'll be doing a couple of bowl game type stuff. So yeah, I'm all over the place. I haven't stopped working since the 10th. So.
So you're on Twitter as well, right?
Yeah, Twitter is JaredHess06, and Instagram is JaredHess06 as well, but it's usually just pictures of my son. So.
I will link to all that in the show notes, everybody. And as always, you can find me at DaveBullis.com. Twitter, it's at Dave_Bullis. Jared, I want to say thank you very much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Good talking.
Good talking to you too, buddy. Take care.
Oh, you too. Bye.
Bye.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.